Dr. Park Hyun turned away from the communication console and looked at the other people in the room. The Deep Space Observatory in Seoul was buzzing with activity. Scientists, military officers, and government officials worked together at dozens of computer stations. The transmission was sent successfully, Park Hyun announced. The alien fleet received our message. President Kim Nara stood near the large windows that showed the city of Seoul below. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been expecting this day for most of her life. How long before they respond? She asked. Unknown, replied Commander Lee Tae-ho. He was tall and wore the dark blue uniform of the Orbital Defense Force. They seemed to be in shock. Our intelligence suggests they expected to find primitive humans. Kim Nara smiled. It was not a kind smile. 500,000 years is a long time to prepare for visitors. Around the room, other people continued their work. Dr. Choi Min-ho sat at a language analysis station, listening to alien communications through his headphones. Colonel Yu Jisoo studied tactical displays that showed the positions of both human and alien ships. Professor Song Mirai worked with her team to analyze the alien vessels themselves. The truth was that humanity had known about the Vorthak Empire for over 300 years. When humans first reached other star systems, they had found the markers, small devices left behind by the aliens during their first visit to Earth. The markers contained information about Vorthak technology, language, and most importantly, their plans for humanity. The aliens had marked Earth as a world to return to when the inhabitants became useful. They expected to find a species that had just discovered space travel. Instead, they found something else entirely. Ma'am, called Dr. Choi Min-ho from his station, I am intercepting communications between the alien ships. They are very confused and increasingly frightened. What are they saying? President Kim asked. The fleet commander is asking his science officers to explain how we could have developed so quickly. They are running scans of our orbital installations and getting readings they cannot understand. Commander Lee Tae-ho laughed. Of course they cannot understand. We built everything using principles we learned from their own technology. This was the secret humanity had kept for centuries. When they found the alien markers, human scientists had not just translated the information, they had improved on it. Alien technology was powerful but simple. Human technology was elegant and efficient. The Vorthak used massive ships with heavy armor and big weapons. Humans built smaller ships that could appear and disappear at will. The Vorthak used brute force to solve problems. Humans used intelligence and creativity. President Kim, said Colonel Yu from her tactical station, I have a report from Fleet Admiral Park Jin-woo. All human ships are in position and ready. How many ships do we have in the system? Kim asked. Visible to alien scanners? About 50. Actually present? Over 3,000. President Kim nodded. This was another human advantage. Stealth technology based on improved alien science made it possible to hide entire fleets from enemy detection. Ma'am, Dr. Park Hyun said, we are receiving a response from the alien flagship. Put it on the main screen. The large display at the front of the room showed the bridge of the alien ship. Admiral Kextel stood in the center, surrounded by his crew. He looked nervous and uncertain. Inhabitants of the third planet, Kextel began, speaking in the Vorthak language. I am Admiral Kextel of the Vorthak Empire. We have come to this system to claim it for our empire. You will surrender immediately or face destruction. The transmission ended. Everyone in the room looked at President Kim Nara. Dr. Choi, she said calmly, please respond to the Admiral. Dr. Choi Min-ho activated the communication system. He spoke in perfect Vorthak, his pronunciation better than most native speakers. Admiral Kextel, this is Dr. Choi Min-ho speaking for the people of Earth. We decline your offer of surrender. Instead, we would like to make you an offer. On the alien ship, Park Hyun could see through their cameras that the bridge crew was shocked. None of them had expected a human to speak their language so perfectly, Choi continued. 500,000 years ago, your people visited our world. You left behind certain items. We found them. We studied them. We learned from them. We have been preparing for your return ever since. Admiral Kextel stepped closer to his communication screen. That is impossible. Our markers were hidden using advanced technology. Yes, they were hidden very well, Choi agreed. It took us almost 200 years to find all of them. But we are patient people. We do not give up easily. Commander Lee Tae-ho walked over to stand next to Dr. Choi. He spoke into the microphone. Admiral, this is Commander Lee Teho of Earth Defense. You should know that we have been monitoring your empire for several centuries. We know about the worlds you have conquered. We know about the species you have enslaved. We know about your plans for expansion. The alien admiral was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Less confident. What do you want from us? President Kim Nara stepped forward to answer personally. We want you to leave our system immediately. Return to your empire and tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. If you choose to attack us, you will discover that we are not the primitive species you remember. You cannot threaten the Vorthak Empire, Kextal said, but his voice shook as he spoke. We are not threatening you, Admiral, Kim replied. We are educating you. Your empire conquered weak species that could not defend themselves. Earth is not weak. Earth has had 500,000 years to become strong. Dr. Song Mirai stepped up to add her own message. Admiral, we have studied your biology, your psychology, and your technology. We know your weaknesses. We know your fears. Most importantly, we know that your empire has never faced an enemy that was prepared for you. The transmission from the alien ship cut off suddenly. The humans in the observatory looked at each other and smiled. I think that got their attention, Commander Lee said. Colonel Yu, President Kim ordered. Tell Admiral Park to begin Phase 2. Yes, ma'am. What about the stealth fleet? Keep them hidden for now. Let the aliens think they know what they are facing. The surprise will be more effective later. Dr. Park Hyun returned to his station and began monitoring alien communications again. Through their radio chatter, he could hear the panic spreading through their fleet. Ship captains asking for orders. Science officers reporting impossible readings. Warriors demanding to know why they had not attacked yet. They are scared? He announced to the room. President Kim Nara nodded. Good. Fear makes people think more clearly. Admiral Kextal is about to learn something that no Vorthak commander has ever learned before. What is that? Asked Dr. Choi. How it feels to be the weaker species. Admiral Kextal stared at the tactical display for a long time. Hundreds of human ships surrounded his fleet like predators circling wounded prey. His 25 vessels, which had seemed so powerful when they entered the system, now looked small and helpless. Admiral, Captain Velmar said carefully. Your orders? Kextal had commanded fleets for over 1,000 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated many enemies. But he had never faced a situation like this. Every tactical manual in the Vorthak Empire assumed that they would be the superior force. Sir, Science Officer Zenka reported, I am analyzing the human ships. Their design principles are completely different from ours. Different how? Our ships are built for heavy armor and massive weapons. Theirs appear to be built for speed and efficiency. They are smaller than our vessels, but their energy signatures suggest they are more powerful. Kextal walked over to look at her detailed scans. What he saw confused him. The human ships did not look like warships at all. They were sleek and elegant, more like works of art than tools of war. How can something so small be more powerful than our heavy cruisers? I do not know, sir, but their energy cores are producing output levels that should be impossible for their size. Fleet Captain Mordak's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, the human ships are not targeting us. They are just watching. This was true. The human fleet had positioned itself around the Vorthak ships, but they had not raised shields or charged weapons. They were simply waiting. Maybe they want to negotiate, suggested Captain Velmar. Kextal nodded. Open a channel to their fleet commander. The communication system activated and Admiral Park Jinwoo appeared on the screen again. He looked relaxed and confident, as if surrounding a Vorthak fleet was something he did every day. Admiral Kextal, the human said politely. Have you had time to consider your situation? I want to discuss terms, Kextal replied. Terms? What kind of terms? Safe passage for my fleet in exchange for information about our empire. Admiral Park smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Admiral, I think you misunderstand. We do not need information about your empire. We already know everything about you, and that is impossible. Is it? Tell me, Admiral, what is the name of your home world? Kextal hesitated. That information was classified at the highest levels. Fourth Prime, Admiral Park answered his own question. Population 47 billion. Location Kepler 442 system. Approximately 1,200 light-years from Earth. Your empire currently controls 1,147 worlds and has enslaved 43 different species. The Vorthak Admiral felt his legs grow weak. How do you know this? We have been watching you for 3 centuries, Admiral. We have ships in every region of your empire. We know your military capabilities, your economic systems, and your political structure. We even know that you have a wife named Kashara and 3 children. Kextal's skin turned completely white. His personal information was supposed to be protected by the most advanced security in the Empire. You see, Admiral, Park continued, when your people marked our world for future conquest, you made a critical error. You assumed we would remain primitive. Instead, we used your own technology to become something you never expected. What do you want? Kextal asked. Justice. Before Kextal could ask what that meant, alarms began sounding throughout his ship. The tactical officer called out in panic. Sir, the humans are jamming our faster-than-light communications. We cannot contact the Empire. At the same time, more human ships began appearing around the Vorthak fleet. Thousands of them, materializing out of empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Stealth technology, Admiral Park explained calmly, based on principles we learned from your markers, but improved considerably. Admiral, you are now surrounded by approximately 3,000 human vessels. Kextal looked at the tactical display and felt his courage disappear completely. His fleet was outnumbered more than 100 to 1. This is impossible, he whispered. No, Admiral. This is 500,000 years of preparation. Captain Velmar stepped forward. Sir, recommend we surrender immediately. But Kextal was a Vorthak warrior. He had never surrendered in his life. All ships prepare for battle. Target the nearest human vessels and fire. Sir, no! Velmar shouted, but it was too late. The Vorthak fleet opened fire with everything they had. Massive energy beams and missile salvos filled the space around them. For a moment, Kextal felt hope. Surely no enemy could survive such firepower. But when the energy discharges cleared, every human ship was still there, undamaged. They had absorbed or deflected the Vorthak weapons like they were toys. Impressive, Admiral Park said over the communication channel. Your weapons are quite powerful. Unfortunately, we designed our defenses specifically to counter Vorthak technology. What happened next was unlike any battle Kextal had ever seen. The human ships did not return fire with massive weapons. Instead, they moved like dancers, surrounding individual Vorthak vessels with impossible grace and precision. Small human ships, no bigger than shuttles, attached themselves to the hulls of Vorthak warships. Within moments, the mighty vessels began shutting down. Engines stopped. Weapons went offline. Life support systems switched to emergency power. What are they doing to us? Velmar demanded. They are disabling us, Kextal said quietly, ship by ship without killing anyone. This was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. The humans had the power to destroy the entire Vorthak fleet in minutes, but instead they were carefully disabling each vessel, making sure no one was hurt. Sir, the tactical officer reported, our main engines are offline. Weapons are non-functional. We are completely helpless. One by one, every ship in the Vorthak fleet was disabled in the same way. The humans moved with surgical precision, their small ships swarming over the alien vessels like antibodies attacking a virus. Admiral Kextal, came Admiral Park's voice over the communication system. Your fleet is now completely disabled. None of your people have been harmed, but your ships are no longer capable of combat or faster-than-light travel. What happens now? Kextal asked. Now you receive a visitor. The main screen showed a small human ship approaching the Vorthak flagship. It docked with their airlocks, and within minutes humans were aboard the alien vessel. The bridge doors opened and a human woman entered. She was small and appeared to be middle-aged, wearing a simple gray uniform. She walked directly to Admiral Kextal and stopped in front of him. Admiral, I am Dr. Song Mirai, Earth's chief diplomat for first contact situations. I have a message for you and your empire. Kextal looked down at the tiny human woman. She was less than half his size and had no visible weapons. But somehow she was the most frightening thing he had ever encountered. What message? He asked. Dr. Song smiled, and Kextal realized that humans could make their smiles look very dangerous. The message is simple, Admiral. The age of Vorthak expansion is over. You will return to your empire and inform them that Earth is now their judge. Every world you have conquered, every species you have enslaved, every crime you have committed across the galaxy, we know about all of it. You cannot threaten the Empire. We are not threatening anyone, Admiral. We are simply informing you of the new reality. Your Empire will release all enslaved species and withdraw from all conquered worlds. If you refuse, you will discover what happens when a species has 500,000 years to prepare for war. Kextal stared at the small human woman and realized that everything had changed. The Vorthak Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology. But now they faced an enemy that was not afraid, and whose technology was beyond their understanding. You have 1 week to deliver our message to your leaders, Dr. Song continued. After that, human fleets will begin liberating the worlds your empire has conquered. We suggest you do not attempt to stop us. The human woman turned and walked away, leaving Kextal alone with the knowledge that his empire's greatest enemies were the primitive creatures they had marked for conquest 500,000 years ago. Admiral Kextal paced back and forth on his bridge like a caged animal. 3 hours had passed since the humans had spoken to him in his own language. 3 hours of impossible discoveries that made his head hurt and his confidence disappear. Report, he demanded from Science Officer Zenka. Sir, our scans of the inner system show massive industrial operations on the 4th planet. Mars, they call it. There are cities there, Admiral. Cities with millions of inhabitants. Kextal stopped pacing. Cities? Our records show Mars as a dead world. Yes, sir. But it is not dead anymore. The humans have changed its atmosphere. They have built oceans. They have turned a dead rock into a living world. Captain Velmar approached with another data tablet. Admiral, we have finished scanning the asteroid belt. The humans have mining operations throughout the entire region. Industrial platforms, refineries, and shipyards. Kextal felt his skin grow cold. Yes, sir. Very large shipyards. Some of them are bigger than our home stations. Kextal looked at the main screen, which showed the human planet Earth. It looked so peaceful and quiet, but now he knew the truth. This was not just one world. This was an entire system turned into a fortress. Sir? Called Communications Officer Threnok. The humans are broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Music, news, entertainment programs. They are acting like we are not even here. What kind of news? Normal things, sir. Weather reports. Sports scores. Political discussions. They show no signs of panic or fear. This bothered Kextal more than anything else. When the Vorthak Empire arrived at a world, the inhabitants usually panicked. They sent desperate messages asking for mercy. They tried to negotiate or fight or hide. But the humans were ignoring them like they were not important. Admiral, said Fleet Captain Mordak over the communication system, request permission to send a probe to investigate Jupiter's moons. Kextal thought about this. Jupiter was the largest planet in the system. If the humans had industrial operations there, it would tell him a lot about their capabilities. Permission granted. Send a Class 3 reconnaissance probe. The probe launched from one of the fleet ships and headed toward Jupiter. It was a small, fast vehicle designed to scan targets without being detected. Kextal watched its progress on the tactical display. The probe reached Jupiter and began scanning the moons. Almost immediately, it started sending back incredible data. The largest moon, Ganymede, was covered in industrial installations. Europa had been turned into a massive research facility. Io was completely covered in mining equipment that harvested materials from the moon's volcanic activity. But it was Callisto that made Kextal's blood freeze. The entire moon had been turned into a military base. Defensive platforms, shipyards, and what looked like the largest weapons he had ever seen. Sir, reported the probe operator, the probe has detected multiple energy signatures around Jupiter. Very large energy signatures. Show me. The main screen displayed what the probe was seeing. Around Jupiter, barely visible against the giant planet's swirling clouds, were structures that dwarfed anything the Vorthak Empire had ever built. Harvesting stations that collected energy directly from Jupiter's magnetic field. Orbital platforms that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. How is this possible? Velmar whispered. Kextal was about to answer when something happened that changed everything. The probe simply vanished. One moment it was there sending back data. The next moment there was nothing. What happened to the probe? Kextal demanded. Unknown, sir. It just stopped existing. No explosion, no debris, no energy discharge. It was there and then it was not there. The bridge was completely silent. In all of Kextal's long career, he had never seen a ship or probe simply disappear like that. Sir, Threnok called out, his voice shaking. I am receiving a transmission from the Jupiter region. Put it on screen. A human face appeared on the display. This was a woman with short black hair and the uniform of what appeared to be a military officer. She smiled pleasantly as she spoke. This is Captain Jang Soman of the Earth Defense Force ship Indomitable. Admiral Kextal, we noticed you sent a probe to investigate our Jupiter installations. We have retrieved your probe intact and will return it to you when you leave our system. The transmission ended before Kextal could respond. Retrieve the probe intact? Velmar said. How did they capture it without damaging it? Kextal did not answer. He was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans were not just ignoring his fleet. They were playing with them. Like a cat playing with a mouse before killing it. Sir, Science Officer Zenka reported, I have been analyzing the energy signatures we detected around Jupiter. If my calculations are correct, the humans are extracting more energy from that one planet than our entire empire produces. That cannot be right. I have checked the numbers multiple times, sir. The energy output is beyond anything we thought possible. Kextal walked over to the tactical display that showed the positions of all ships in both fleets. His 25 ships looked powerful and impressive. But now he was starting to see the truth. The humans had only shown them a few dozen ships. But if they could build installations the size of moons, how many ships might they really have? Admiral, Captain Velmar said quietly, I think we may have made a serious mistake. What kind of mistake? We assumed we were the hunters in this situation. But I think we might be the prey. As if summoned by his words, alerts began sounding throughout the bridge. The sensor officer called out in panic, Sir, I am detecting new contacts. Ships are appearing throughout the system. Appearing? You mean approaching? No, sir. Appearing. They were not there and now they are there. The main tactical display updated to show the new contacts. Hundreds of human ships had suddenly become visible around the Vorthak fleet. They had been hidden somehow using technology that could fool Vorthak sensors completely. How many ships? Kextal asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Still counting, sir. At least 500. Possibly more. Kextal stared at the display. His fleet of 25 ships was now surrounded by an enemy force that outnumbered them 20-1. And these were just the ships the humans were allowing them to see. Sir, Threnok reported, receiving another transmission from the humans. A different human appeared on the screen this time, an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. When he spoke, it was in perfect Vorthak. Admiral Kextal, this is Fleet Admiral Park Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Force. We thought you might be confused about the tactical situation, so we decided to clarify things for you. Behind the human, Kextal could see the bridge of what was obviously a very advanced warship. The technology visible in the background was unlike anything he had ever seen. You are currently surrounded by a small portion of our defensive fleet, the human admiral continued. We want you to understand that you have two choices. You can leave our system peacefully, or you can discover what 500,000 years of preparation looks like. The transmission ended, leaving Kextal alone with his fears and the terrible knowledge that his mighty fleet was trapped. The massive ships moved through the dark space between stars like sleeping giants. Admiral Kextal stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the stars shift as they came out of faster-than-light travel. His forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the view screen. After 500,000 years, they had returned to this small corner of the galaxy. Status report, Kextal ordered. His voice echoed through the bridge as his crew worked at their stations. Captain Velmar approached with a data tablet in his clawed hands. We have successfully entered the Sol system, Admiral. All fleet ships report normal status. The third planet should be visible soon. Kextal nodded. He remembered the old records from their last visit to this system. A small blue world with one natural moon. The planet had been covered in water and green land masses. Most importantly, it had been home to a primitive species. Hairless bipeds who had just learned to make fire and use simple tools. The Vorthak Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for millions of years. They had conquered thousands of worlds and enslaved hundreds of species. This little planet had been marked in their records as a future resource. The primitive creatures there would need time to develop before they could be useful as workers or soldiers. Sir, called Communications Officer Threnok from his station, I am detecting something unusual. Kextal turned toward the communication station. What kind of unusual? Threnok's three eyes blinked rapidly as he checked his readings again. The electromagnetic signatures from the third planet are much stronger than expected. According to our records, these creatures should barely have metal tools by now. Perhaps they developed faster than predicted, Velmar suggested. Some species do evolve more quickly when left alone. Kextall walked over to look at the readings himself. What he saw made his skin change color with surprise. The electromagnetic activity was not just stronger than expected. It was impossibly complex. Radio waves, microwave transmissions, and other signals filled the space around the planet like a buzzing hive. Bring the planet into visual range, he ordered. The main screen flickered, and then showed them the third planet, Earth. Kextall stared at it for a long moment without speaking. The planet looked the same as he remembered from the records. Blue oceans, white clouds, brown and green land masses. But something was very wrong. Count the moons, he said quietly. Velmar looked at the screen and counted. I see. Many objects in orbit. But sir, our records show only one natural moon. Exactly. Kextall pointed at the screen. Those other objects are artificial. Satellites, stations, possibly even weapons platforms. The bridge became very quiet. Every crew member stared at the screen. Around the planet Earth, dozens of artificial objects moved in careful orbits. Some were small, no bigger than a Vorthak scout ship. Others were massive, the size of small cities. How is this possible? Velmar whispered. Kextall had been alive for over 2,000 years. He had seen many surprising things in his long career. But this was beyond anything he had experienced. A species that should still be living in caves had somehow built a complex civilization in space. Sir, Threnok called out again. His voice was shaking. I am receiving transmissions from the planet. Put them on speaker. The bridge filled with sounds unlike anything they had heard before. Voices speaking in dozens of different languages, music, data transmissions, news broadcasts. The sounds of a busy, advanced civilization. Kextall felt his heart's beating faster. This was supposed to be a simple operation. They would arrive at a primitive world, demand surrender, and add another planet to their empire. Instead, they had found something that should not exist. Admiral, said Science Officer Zenka from her station, I am analyzing the transmission patterns. These signals are using technology we do not recognize. What do you mean? The mathematical structures behind their communications are completely different from anything in our database. They are not just advanced. They are advanced in ways we never considered. Kextall looked around at his crew. He could see fear in their eyes. The Vorthak Empire had rules for dealing with primitive species. They had rules for dealing with species at their own level of technology. But they had no rules for this situation. Sir, Velmar said slowly, should we contact the other ships in our fleet? Kextall nodded. Open a channel to all vessels. The communication system connected him to the other 24 ships in their fleet. Each ship carried 1,000 warriors and enough firepower to destroy a planet. It should have been more than enough to handle any resistance from a primitive world. All ships. This is Admiral Kextall. We have a situation. The target planet is not what our records indicated. Begin full tactical scans immediately. Prepare for possible resistance. The responses came back quickly. Every ship captain reported the same impossible readings. Advanced technology everywhere. Massive orbital installations. Energy signatures that made no sense according to Vorthak science. Admiral, said Fleet Captain Mordak from the heavy cruiser, my science team believes some of these orbital platforms are weapons. Big weapons. Kextall closed the communication channel and turned back to the main screen. Earth hung in space before them, looking peaceful and beautiful. But now he could see the truth. This was not a peaceful world. This was a fortress. Sir, Threnok said, I am receiving a new transmission. It appears to be directed at us specifically. At us? How could they know we are here? I do not know, sir. But the transmission is using our own communication frequencies. Kextall felt cold fear run through his body. Put it on screen. The main display changed to show the face of one of the planet's inhabitants. A human, though Kextall did not know that word yet. The creature had pale skin, dark hair, and small eyes. It looked directly at the camera and spoke in perfect Vorthak language. Welcome to Earth, the human said calmly. My name is Dr. Park Hyun. We have been monitoring your approach for several days. We would like to invite you to establish peaceful contact. The bridge was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The human continued. We understand this may be surprising. Please take your time to consider our invitation. We will wait for your response. The transmission ended. The screen went back to showing the planet Earth, peaceful and quiet in the darkness of space. Kextall stared at the planet for a long time. 500,000 years ago, his people had visited primitive creatures who barely understood fire. Now those same creatures were speaking his language and inviting him to talk. Something had gone very, very wrong with their plans. 6 hours later, the Vorthak fleet limped away from Earth with their engines barely functional and their pride completely destroyed. Admiral Kextal sat alone in his command chair, staring at the reports from his damaged ships. Not a single Vorthak warrior had been killed, but every vessel in his fleet had been disabled and then repaired just enough to return home. The humans had given them a message to deliver, and Kextal knew that message would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Song Mirai stood in the observation deck of the human flagship Terra's Wrath, watching the alien fleet disappear into faster-than-light travel. Fleet Admiral Park Jinwoo joined her at the large windows. "Do you think they will deliver our message?" he asked. "They have no choice," Song replied. "Admiral Kextal is a career military officer. He will follow orders and report what happened here. And when the Vorthak leaders hear the report," Song smiled, "they will not believe it at first. They will think Kextal is lying or that he made mistakes, but eventually they will realize the truth." Admiral Park nodded. He had been preparing for this moment his entire life. His grandfather had been one of the first humans to study the alien markers. His father had helped design the weapons that disabled the Vorthak fleet. Now it was his turn to see humanity take its place among the stars. "How long before we begin Phase 2? He asked. "Commander Lee estimates we can have the first liberation fleets ready within 1 month, Song answered. "We will start with the worlds closest to Earth and work our way toward the Vorthak home system." 3 weeks later, Admiral Kextal stood in the Grand Council chamber on Vorth Prime, facing the most powerful leaders in the Empire. The room was enormous, with ceiling that reached toward the sky and walls covered in the banners of conquered worlds. Supreme Commander Vexhul sat on the throne at the center of the chamber. He was ancient even by Vorthak standards, having ruled the Empire for over 5,000 years. Around him sat the other members of the High Council, military leaders who had never known defeat. "Admiral Kextal," Supreme Commander Vexhul spoke with a voice like grinding stone. "You report that a primitive species defeated your entire fleet without casualties." "Yes, Supreme Commander. The humans have technology we do not understand. They disabled our ships with ease." "Impossible. Our records clearly show that Earth was inhabited by primitives." "The records are 500,000 years old, Supreme Commander. The humans have had time to develop." Council member Thexran leaned forward. "No species develops that quickly. You must have made tactical errors." Kextal had expected this response. "Supreme Commander, I request permission to show the battle recordings." The chamber's main display activated, showing the human fleet surrounding the Vorthak vessels. The council members watched in silence as the small human ships disabled the mighty Vorthak warships with impossible ease. When the recording ended, the chamber was completely quiet. "How many human ships were there?" asked Council Member Morveth. "Over 3,000, and those were only the ones they allowed us to see." Supreme Commander Vexhul stood up from his throne. "What did they want?" "They want us to release all enslaved species and withdraw from all conquered worlds. And if we refuse, they said they would liberate the worlds themselves." The council members looked at each other with expressions of disbelief and growing fear. The Vorthak Empire had never received ultimatums. They were the ones who made demands. "Supreme Commander," said Council Member Kesheral, "recommend we send a larger fleet to destroy this human threat." "With what ships?" Kextal asked. "They defeated 25 of our best vessels without effort." "How many ships would you send? 100? 1,000? We have over 10,000 ships in the Imperial fleet, and they probably have 50,000, Kextal replied. "Maybe more?" "Supreme Commander, the humans have been preparing for this war for 500,000 years. They know everything about us. Our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses." Supreme Commander Vexhul was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" "I recommend we consider their offer seriously. The humans could have destroyed my fleet completely. Instead, they sent us home with a message. That suggests they prefer negotiation to war. The Vorthak Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. With respect, Supreme Commander, the humans are not inferior. They are superior to us in every way that matters." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. No one in the council chamber had ever heard a Vorthak officer admit that another species was superior. 2 months later, the first reports reached Vorth Prime. Human fleets had appeared at 3 different Vorthak colonies simultaneously. The local defense forces had tried to resist and been defeated within hours. But instead of conquering the worlds, the humans had done something unprecedented. They had freed the enslaved populations and left. Explain this. Supreme Commander Vexhol demanded of his intelligence officers. The humans arrived at each world with overwhelming force, reported Intelligence Director Nextal. They disabled our orbital defenses and landed ground forces. But instead of occupying the planets, they released all slave populations and departed. Where did the freed slaves go? The humans transported them to new worlds, uninhabited planets that they had prepared for colonization. Supreme Commander Vexhol felt a cold fear growing in his chest.
How many uninhabited planets?
According to our long-range scouts, the humans have prepared over 200 worlds for colonization. Garden worlds with perfect atmospheres and abundant resources. The implications of this were staggering. The humans had not only prepared for war, they had prepared for peace. They had spent centuries finding and preparing new homes for every species the Vorthak Empire had enslaved. Supreme Commander, Council Member Morveth said quietly, the humans are not conquerors, they are liberators. More reports came in over the following weeks. Human fleets appeared throughout Vorthak space, always in overwhelming numbers, always victorious, always leaving after freeing the enslaved populations. They moved with precision and purpose, as if they had been planning each operation for decades. Because they had been. Commander Park Jinwoo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another liberated world recede behind them. His communications officer turned to report. Sir, the former slaves have been successfully transported to their new homeworld. The colonization ships are already in orbit. Excellent. What is our next target? The Kepler 438 system, sir. 3 worlds with a total slave population of 40 million. Time to arrival? 6 days at current speed, Park nodded. The liberation was proceeding exactly as planned. Every freed species was given a choice. Accept transport to a prepared world where they could rebuild their civilization, or join the human fleet as volunteers in the liberation effort. Most chose new homes, but some chose to fight. The human fleet grew larger with each victory as former slaves joined the cause. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it on screen. President Kim Nara appeared on the display, speaking from her office in Seoul. Commander Park, I have news from the diplomatic front. Yes, ma'am. 3 more Vorthak systems have surrendered without fighting. They are releasing their slave populations voluntarily and requesting human protection. Park smiled. This was the best possible outcome. The Vorthak Empire was collapsing from within as individual systems chose surrender over destruction. How is Supreme Commander Vexhol responding? He sent a message requesting direct negotiations. He wants to discuss terms for a complete surrender of the Empire. Are we going to negotiate? President Kim's expression became very serious. Yes, but not the kind of negotiations he expects. Dr. Song is preparing a list of war crimes charges against the Vorthak leadership. They will face trial for their actions over the past 1,000,000 years. Park nodded. Justice was important, but so was mercy. The humans had learned much about both concepts during their long preparation for this day. Ma'am, what about the Vorthak people themselves? The civilians who never chose to be part of an empire? They will be offered the same choice as everyone else. New worlds, new lives, and the chance to build something better than what they had before. The transmission ended, leaving Park alone with his thoughts. The galaxy was changing rapidly, and humanity was leading that change. But they were not becoming conquerors like the Vorthak. They were becoming something new. 6 months after Admiral Kextal's defeat at Earth, Supreme Commander Vexhol sat alone in his private chambers. The reports on his desk told the story of an empire in collapse. Over half of their worlds had been liberated. Most of their fleet had either been destroyed or had surrendered. The remaining Vorthak territories were isolated and defenseless. A communication alert sounded. Vexhol activated the display and saw the face of Dr. Song Mire. Supreme Commander, she said politely, I am calling to inform you that human fleets will reach Vorth Prime in 3 days. We are prepared to accept your unconditional surrender. And if I refuse, then you will face the same fate as the commanders who chose to fight. But I do not think you will refuse. You are too intelligent to waste Vorthak lives in a hopeless battle. Vexel was quiet for a moment. What will happen to my people?